I'll exercise it for you. Okay, so there's a big misnomer going around that indicates that the Bible supports open borders. That is the furthest from the truth. The Bible does not support open borders. For example, in the 34th chapter, um, in the 34th chapter of the book of Numbers, the entire going into great detail about how the land of Israel was divided up, and each tribe had specific borders and boundaries. Okay? In the book of Numbers 21, verse 22, Moses specifically asked permission to pass through another nation's territory. So let me repeat it. Here's a clear case that the Bible does support open borders. When Moses wanted to pass through another country's territory, as stated in Numbers 21, verse 22, it specifically states that Moses asked the other nation permission to pass through. He didn't just walk across the border. No, he asked permission to cross the border. Um, in the book of Deuteronomy 19, verse 14, it's going to underscore the biblical view of property rights and recognize both. Let me repeat again. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 19, verse 14, underscores the sacred biblical view that property rights and recognized borders are very sacred. As stated earlier, Moses asked permission for another country to pass a border. They didn't just walk across it. And here in Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 14, it specifically talk about the sacredness of borders and recognized boundaries. All right? In the Deuteronomy 32, in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8, it knows that the Most High, the God of the Bible, gave the nations their inheritance, and he sets the boundaries of the peoples. Let me repeat again. Deuteronomy chapter 38, Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8, specifically states that God sets up the boundaries of the peoples of the nations. All right? Even in the New Testament, even in the Christian um, Bible, Acts 17, verse 26 says that God made all the nations and marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their land. Once again, boundaries. No open border. All right. We can also talk about people say, "Oh, we want to welcome into the stranger." Okay, it's clear that this states that the stranger must respect the borders. As stated earlier, when Moses wanted to pass through another country's borders, he asked the nation permission to pass through. He didn't just get up and walk across it. Second of all, there talk about, well, we must welcome into the stranger. Okay. Um, in that case, it's it specifically state that the the person must respect the rules of the nation they're going into and the laws of the nation that they're going into. They can't just get up and walk across the border. As stated earlier, Moses asked permission to pass to another nation's border. In the cases where it said welcome to the stranger has to ask permission to come in, and he has to respect the rules and laws of the country. This whole nonsense of open borders, just walk across the border, is a communist um, um, idea, and it's not rooted in biblical law, and basically it defies common sense. The cultures are different, peoples are different. You can't just walk across the border. What they want is they want no borders because they want a one world government, which is just nonsense. Open borders makes no sense. It defies logic. It defies common sense. Let me repeat. Open borders makes absolutely no sense. It also defies logic and it defies common sense. And as I have just demonstrated, it's also not in the Bible. It's just another communist scam. So be on guard, be on lookout, and keep your eyes and ears open. All right? Thank you so much for taking the time for this little chat. Bye now, and